Did you see this story? Author is suing Amazon and J.R. Tolkien's grandson, claiming they infringed on his Lord of the Rings fan fiction.
Well,
do you hear about this?
I gotta say that might explain like a lot, dude. You know what I'm saying?
There's a tempest in me.
Weren't you at one time writing some fan fiction? I know I've kind of dabbled.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
fan
You know,
myself.
It was going to be like, what if Lord of the Rings it took place in the Matrix? Like it could absolutely
just be
happen.
A program.
Yeah,
they could run the Lord of the Rings firmware.
Right, and then Neo would be Frodo, right? Or Frodo would be Neo, right?
Okay.
And then Gandalf would be Morpheus. They would have to search for Elrond, but it was like everything was backwards.
What Hugo Weaving? See, Hugo Weaving is in both.
Hugo Weaving would be. Well, that would be weird because Hugo.
So does
Weaving,
he play Elrond or does he play
Mr. Smith?
Right. So Hugo Weaving would be Mr. Smith, but he would also be
Elrond.
Mr. Elrond Smith.
Mr. Elrond Smith.
Mr. Elrond Smith. No, but seriously, because you would be like kind of jockeying for position between two competing hugely popular franchises.
Right, but that's why I think
The Matrix and Lord of the Rings, who would you plagiarize the most?
I don't know. I would treat it like a Reese's peanut butter cup and like two things that go great together that you wouldn't think of putting together, and that's
right.
And I would try to do it like an even 50-50 split right down the middle, where like they.
You remember those old commercials, by the way, where it's like two people bump into each other and the chocolate goes in the peanut butter?
Yeah,
and it's like you got your chocolate in my peanut. Who eats peanut butter from a jar like that?
Yeah, I know who walks down the street with a jar of peanut butter. You know what I'm saying?
I always wondered that, like, who the fuck would be walking down the street with a jar? You got your chocolate in my peanut butter.
I know, and like there are these huge chocolate bars.
It's like a giant boink. Anyway, but think about this: if you were to write this piece of fan fiction and then you turn around. And instead of being sued by the Tolkien estate and by the Matrix boys, you try to sue them. Wouldn't that be cool?
It would never occur to me to do that, but...
Well, it's happening. So there's this gentleman, Demetrius Polychron, who wrote a piece of fan fiction. And he's turning around and he's suing Amazon and the J.R. Tolkien estate for $250 million for some fan fiction that he wrote.
That seems about right.
But the fan fiction is like a total ripoff on Lord of the Rings, and it features Eleanor Gamgee, the daughter of Sam Gamgee, as the main character. Real quick, so this guy Demetrius Polychron has a YouTube channel where he's presenting us with the map for his mythic oeuvre, which is entitled The Fellowship of the King.
Wow.
He's holding up this map and he's like, I wanted to write a much larger story, so instead of using this map, which is Tolkien's map of Middle-earth, but he's like, I needed to make a much bigger map, so what he does is he
enlarged it.
he totally took the exact same map enlarged in Karen Wynne Fronstad's Atlas of Middle-earth and made copies of the pages and then literally taped you could see behind him. Those are just the pages of the Atlas of Middle-earth taped together. He's like, I needed to make a much bigger map. So now he has a bigger map, but it's still Tolkien's map, right?
Couldn't he have used a magnifying glass and got the same effect without going through
a scanning electron microscope?
Right, because like he killed probably like 2 trees to make that map. You know what I'm saying?
But it's like, just because you're making the map bigger, it's still Tolkien's map, and it's still the world he created. You know what I mean? It's like, just because you're using that, oh, it's genius. I know. I'll alter the map by making it larger.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Lord of the Rings and I'm just gonna blow up the pages.
Make a large printed.
Yeah.
I know, large print edition, Lord of the Rings by and then we just can sign our names at the end of it. 2 ships.
Dude, you know what? It always comes back to this goes to 11.
It's basically turning the map to 11 and then reselling it, rebranding it as your own.
Okay. He's like, but look, Tolkien did not highlight what kind of mental gymnastics do you have to like do in order to be like, oh, I blew up the map, so
now it's mine.
Give me $250 million. See?
Yeah. It's funny because like I looked into this guy a little bit. He has a few videos on YouTube, and when you hear him talk, he sounds like he's in earnest. Like the saddest or most tragic thing about this guy is he clearly loves Tolkien.
Let me ask you this: what are the odds out of the three? Like here's what's going to happen tomorrow, right? We're going to put this video up, and then we're going to go from 300.
He's like, you featured our map.
We're going to go to 300 from 318 subscribers to 317 because Dimitri is like, I hate you guys.
I know he's one of our subscribers.
I know.
Like, you made fun of me.
You guys
made fun of me. See, I'm suing you.
Seriously at a premium, and when they respond, it's usually like I enjoy reading the response, like the comments because they're actually.
I mean, what we're doing now. I mean, here's the thing: it would be just him suing Amazon makes about as much sense as him suing us because he's infringing on the Tolkien estate's rights by okay.
Quick, enlarge this picture so he can't sue us. Come on, quick.
Oh. There, now we're free from
we're free.
Being Phew.
Let me ask you this.
I can insmallin it.
Yeah. If enlarging the picture makes it your own, wouldn't shrinking it have the same inverse effect?
Yeah, it can make it all the more his.
Right.
It makes about as much sense for him to sue Amazon as it does for him to sue us because it's like he started with an infringed piece of intellectual property, aka this map, right? He infringed on it by just taking it whole cloth from Tolkien.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
And then if he sued us for featuring it on our show, like it's an infringement of an infringement. So basically what he's saying is like one of his characters is named Eleanor Gamgee, which he ripped off whole cloth from Lord of the Rings. And I guess one of the main reasons he's suing Amazon is because in the Rings of Power, it features Eleanor, and he feels like that's an infringement on his intellectual property, which has been infringed, which is an infringement of the Tolkien estate's original intellectual property.
Right. So
does that make sense?
But he couldn't use the name Eleanor anyway, right?
Well, he did.
I know.
Here's the thing:
because the name Eleanor, did that ever appear in the appendices? Because I know that
it's in the book. Because I remember
it's in the book, but they can't
the name of his daughter.
Right, and the name of the daughter, but in the appendix, in the appendices, because that's the only place that they can use any of the material from, right?
Well, they being Amazon, right?
Amazon, yeah.
Okay.
So, like,
you can't copyright the name Eleanor. I don't think you can't copyright.
You could try. What if you wrote it? What if you wrote it differently and trademarked it?
Yeah, think of how many like Victorian novels have the name John in it or something. Oh, that's my John, because Eleanor is a common name, I assume.
Right.
But maybe that's. I don't see. I'm not a legal scholar, but I found this article in the very interesting magazine Plagiarism Today.
You know what's funny? Like I have
an article in Plagiarism Today.
No. I actually have a website called Yesterday's Plagiarism, and I just copy everything from here and just pass it off as my own. You know what I'm saying? Yesterday's Plagiarism.
Yes.
And
tomorrow's gold mine.
And then we will just.
Oh, so anyway, Plagiarism Today. I kind of consulted the big boys who know all about plagiarism, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so at the bottom of this, it says, as far as copyright is concerned, fan fiction is a derivative work of the source material. Original authors or other rights holders have the sole right to create and authorize sequels, prequels, and other new works based on their original. However, though different creators have different attitudes towards fan fiction, fan creations, aka fan fiction, have in general been widely tolerated. Creators simply don't want to go to legal war with their fans and their communities, especially over non-commercial use. Now, especially over non-commercial use, I think is the key, because there's tons of Lord of the Rings fan fiction online, but none of those people are trying to like make money off of it. They just do it for fun, for free, you know?
Right.
But if someone said, oh, I'm going to make a Gollum slot machine and make millions of dollars in Vegas selling my Gollum slot machine. Actually, there is a Lord of the Rings like
there is.
gaming
I see.
machine.
Yeah.
That was actually another legal battle like a few years ago where the Tolkien estate was like, you're making Lord of the Rings slot machines. Tolkien would have never wanted that. That's a stupid use for our, for his work.
Yeah.
And I think they lost because like they bought the rights for the Lord of the Rings slot machines from the owners of the rights of the guy who bought the rights back in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah,
like, Tolkien basically sold. He didn't know what was going. He didn't have any concept of merch or any of these things back then. Back in the day.
Was it the Saul Zentz?
I think so. I think it was that same Saul Zentz group. So this Fellowship of the King, it's called, this Demetrius Polychron book. It's like it's being sold on Amazon, and then he's suing Amazon. Isn't that irony? Apparently, like Amazon didn't even, they sell so much stuff that there's no like vetting process. They probably didn't even really realize what they were selling.
I know.
Like, this is an excerpt from the book.
Oh, all right. Yeah. In the small sitting room adorned with a large window sat Rosie Gamgee Gardner, as the hobbits of the forefathers called her, on account of all the planting her husband, the honorable mayor of the Shire, Samwise Gamgee Gardner, had done. Like, how did Sam get like another surname? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know why they call him Gardner. Maybe he's doing that for copyright reasons. I don't know. Maybe he took on this second surname Gardner because he's a gardener. Like it's an occupational surname.
Yeah, but again, you see where that's kind of dumb, right? I mean, it's like, like Sam. I do think like from like all the Tolkien readings that like would Sam like, oh, you know what? I need to add like another name. Like Sam was like really a simple dude. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, he's become very unsimple now. Now he's Honorable Mayor of the Shire, HMS Samwise Gamgee Gardner III. No, not the third, but HMS. Right. That sounds like he's a ship.
Yeah, I know. He's like set sail.
His Majesty's ship, Samwise. Okay, so this is like the blurb on the book.
Okay.
Eleanor, daughter of Samwise, is nervous before her debutante party in the Shire in the 22nd year of the reign of High King LOTR. The Blue Wizards return from out of the east bearing grave and perilous the rest of the rings of power. I guess it should be grave and perilous news. The rest of the rings of power had been found, and they are in deadly danger. Eleanor, two hobbit friends, the Crown Prince Eldarion, his elvish uncle Eladon, and Elrohir, join the wizard Alatar and Palando. So those are the actual Blue Wizards' names.
Yeah.
You're right. In a war across Middle-earth, fighting for their lives. If they fail, they will witness the return of the Vala Morgoth, the source of evil and former master of the long-defeated Sauron. With all the rings of power at his command, Morgoth will enslave the whole world of Middle-earth forever.
Can I just say that this is a way more intriguing story than Rings of Power right now?
There's a tempest in me.
It actually is.
Yeah.
It actually is. I mean, again, I never said that this guy was the worst writer I've ever seen. I've definitely seen more terrible writers. I just question his sanity with regard to his approach, like legally speaking.
Yeah,
I mean, again, I looked at some of the guy's videos, and he doesn't seem like he seems like he loves Tolkien. You know, he's like a brother in terms of his appreciation for Tolkien, and he's a creative person. But whether or not he has a leg to stand on, legally speaking, is
right.
a
But
different
honestly,
story.
I think, well, okay, when did he register his book with the U.S. copyright? Do you have that?
I think 2017. That's when he
Okay.
claims to have finished it, and he said he sent it to the Tolkien estate.
Yeah. Okay.
Because,
but the point is,
because I think he's trying to establish the precedent, or establish the fact that that they saw it, that someone in Amazon or Tolkien saw it, and therefore that's how the Rings of Power came to be.
Right.
But
yeah.
But some of these articles I've read claim that the Tolkien estate probably has a normal policy of not opening mail that contains works of fiction for precisely this reason,
right,
to keep
right.
to kind of protect themselves against these kinds of frivolous lawsuits. Well, the last thing I'll say is, in 20 years, like in the US, I think it's like you have to wait. I forgot exactly how much, 60 or 70 years after an author dies. Yeah, I think it's 70 years
before it
after,
becomes public domain.
before it becomes
right?
public domain. So in 20 years, it'll be like 70 years maybe after Tolkien died. Then all this stuff will be in the public domain, and people can write fan fiction.
That's actually like that's actually what happened with there's like that Winnie the Pooh horror movie, you know, where they took Pooh and Piglet and made them.
Oh, right. Yeah.
In 20 years, we could be seeing all sorts of horrific, like,
fan fiction. Well, write your fan fiction now while you have a chance, and then in 20 years, you'll just be raking in the money.
I know. And the name Demetrius Polychron will go down in history as
live in infamy.
He's like the Frodo of yeah. I'm going to write into fan fiction about a guy named Demetrius Polychron that led the way for like all the fan fiction to like he paved the way for the fan fiction.
Yes, and he's like the Moses of fan fiction writers, leading us into the promised land.
He's part of the Red Sea that is Amazon and the Tolkien estate, and you know, he's going to lead us right. It's going to be great. I understand, like wanting it to kind of continue, like oh, this is a great story, and you know, like what if this happens, and this would be really cool. But you know what, dude? How many times like that's like I think fan fiction should be when you're sitting around with your buddies, right? And you're like, you know, it would be really funny, or what would be really cool is like they would have had Aragorn do this, and then you discuss it and you follow that rabbit trail for a little bit, and then you're like,
you mean
okay,
kind of like what we do here on Speculative Tolkienism?
Pretty much.